The sun rose over the grand palace of Viridia, painting the tall towers with golden light. The palace was the largest in the galaxy, with crystal walls that reflected every color of the sky. Birds of many kinds flew through the air, singing in strange and beautiful melodies. Inside the palace, servants and guards were already moving quickly. Today was a special day. Today, the queen would announce a decision that would change the future of the entire kingdom. Queen Alara sat on her throne, her posture calm but strong. She was tall, with silver hair that shimmered in the sunlight. Her eyes were sharp, and everyone who looked at her could feel her wisdom and authority. Beside her stood Princess Nira, her daughter. Nira was young but smart, with curiosity in her eyes that often made the older advisors nervous. She had long, dark hair and a gentle smile, but her mind was always active, thinking about the world beyond the palace walls. The room was full of nobles, ambassadors from other planets, and the royal council. They had gathered for the queen's announcement. Many whispered to each other, wondering what the queen had planned. Some were excited, others nervous. Today, Princess Nira would begin the process of choosing a father from 5 champions. The 5 champions were heroes from different parts of the galaxy. Each of them had shown great skill in combat, strategy, and leadership. They had been invited to Viridia to compete in challenges that would test their strength, intelligence, and courage. The winner would become the chosen father of the princess. First, there was Kale, a tall warrior from the desert planet of Theros. His skin was dark, and his muscles were strong. He carried a large sword that he swung with ease. Many said he could defeat any enemy in a single strike. Kyle stood proudly, his eyes scanning the room as if daring anyone to challenge him. Next was Reinar, from the water world of Lumea. His movements were graceful, like a fish in water. His blue skin shone under the light, and he had a calm, confident smile. He was known for his clever strategies in battles at sea, and many respected his intelligence and patience. Third was Brack, a giant from the icy planet of Frostar. He had white hair and thick fur around his shoulders. His hands were larger than a human's head, and his strength was unmatched. People said he could lift boulders and crush metal with his bare hands. Brack looked around with a slow smile, clearly enjoying the attention. The 4th champion was Zira, a swift and agile fighter from the jungle planet of Vera. She moved quickly, her green skin blending with the shadows. Her eyes were sharp, and her reflexes were faster than most could imagine. Many believed she could win any physical challenge before anyone else had time to react. Finally, there was Joran, a human from Earth. He was smaller than the others, with brown hair and simple clothes. He carried only a small dagger, which seemed almost laughable next to the large weapons of the other champions. Many of the nobles whispered, saying he looked weak. They doubted he could compete at all, but Joran did not appear worried. He stood quietly, watching the others with careful eyes, waiting for the moment he would show his true abilities. Queen Alara raised her hand, and the room grew silent. "Today," she said, her voice clear and strong, "my daughter will meet 5 champions. She will watch them, test them, and then make her choice. The one she selects will become the father of the princess and a protector of our people." The room filled with gasps. Choosing a father was a sacred decision. Usually, the strongest or most intelligent warrior was selected. But this time, the queen had given the choice to her daughter. Every eye in the room turned to Princess Nira. She felt a small rush of excitement and fear. She knew the responsibility she carried. The future of Viridia depended on her choice. The 5 champions stepped forward. Each bowed slightly to Nira. Kyle's bow was bold and confident. Reinar's was calm and precise. Brack's was slow but deep. Zira's was quick and graceful. Joran's bow was simple and polite, yet there was respect in his eyes. Nira studied them carefully. She wanted to look beyond strength and skill. She wanted to understand who they truly were. The queen continued, "The champions will face trials. These trials are not just for strength. They will test courage, wisdom, and compassion. Watch carefully, Nira. Do not be fooled by appearances. True character is what matters most." As the queen spoke, Joran's heart beat faster. He knew the challenges would be difficult. He was smaller, weaker, and less experienced than the others. But he also knew that humans were clever and resilient. He had learned to solve problems in ways others could not imagine, and today he would have to prove that this mattered more than size or strength. Outside the palace, the first trial had already been prepared. A labyrinth of walls and obstacles stretched across the palace gardens. It was designed to test the champion's agility, intelligence, and courage. Guards and spectators filled the area, watching in silence as the champions prepared. Kyle flexed his muscles and smiled, clearly confident he could complete the trial quickly. Reinar studied the labyrinth carefully, planning his route. Brake laughed softly, confident his strength alone would carry him through. Zira jumped lightly, ready to sprint ahead. Joran looked at the labyrinth and nodded to himself. He did not rush or boast. He would take each step carefully, using his mind to guide his way. Princess Nira watched Joran closely. There was something about him that was different. While the other champions seemed focused on showing off their power, Joran seemed to think about others and the choices he would make. She felt a spark of curiosity. Perhaps he was not as weak as everyone believed. Queen Alara watched her daughter with pride. She knew Nira's choice would surprise many, but she also knew that her daughter's heart and wisdom were stronger than appearances. The trials were about to begin, and soon everyone would see that true strength was not always measured by muscles or weapons. The sun shone higher in the sky, and the first trial began. The champions stepped forward into the labyrinth. Kyle ran. Confidently, Brack charged ahead. Reinar moved with careful steps. Zira darted quickly, and Joran started slowly, his eyes scanning every corner. The crowd held its breath. This was the beginning of a journey that would test not just strength, but courage, wisdom, and the power of the human heart. And for Princess Nira, it was the first step toward discovering what true strength really meant. The labyrinth stretched before the champions, its tall walls casting long shadows in the morning sun. It was made of stone and vines, with twisting paths, hidden traps, and puzzles that would test more than just strength. The crowd watched in silence as the 5 champions prepared to enter. Princess Nira stood near the entrance, her eyes focused on each competitor. She wanted to see who could think, who could act, and who could show true courage. Kyle, the desert warrior, moved first. He ran swiftly, pushing aside obstacles with ease. His sword cut through vines, and he leapt over walls without hesitation. Many in the crowd cheered, impressed by his speed and power. Kale's confidence was clear. He believed he would finish the trial first. Reinar, the strategist from the water world, moved carefully. He studied each path before stepping forward, analyzing the patterns of the walls and the traps. While he was not as fast as Kyle, his mind worked quickly. He solved puzzles with ease, unlocking hidden doors and passing sections that required clever thinking. Brake, the giant from the icy world, relied on his strength. He lifted walls, smashed obstacles, and cleared his way without thinking about the smaller details. His size allowed him to move large stones and break barriers easily. The crowd admired his power, but some whispered that he ignored the clever tricks hidden in the labyrinth. Zira, the jungle fighter, ran with speed and agility. She jumped from wall to wall, climbed vines, and avoided traps with incredible reflexes. She was quick and precise, moving like a shadow. Her movements were beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Many watched her in awe, convinced she might win the trial with ease. Joran, the human, moved differently. He did not charge forward like the others. Instead, he paused to study each section of the labyrinth. He noticed hidden pressure plates in the ground, secret levers, and small patterns on the walls that suggested safe paths. Joran used his mind to guide his body carefully. When a trap appeared, he solved it with clever timing instead of strength. Atishi. First, the crowd laughed at Joran. He was slower than the other champions and struggled with obstacles that were easy for Kale or Zira. Some whispered that he was weak and unfit to be a father of the princess. But Princess Nira did not laugh. She watched quietly, noticing how Joran thought about each problem carefully. She sensed that his mind and heart were different from the others. As the champions moved deeper into the labyrinth, the first real challenge appeared. A section of the path was filled with swinging blades and narrow bridges. Many champions could not see the hidden triggers that made the blades move. Kyle rushed forward, dodging some blades, but a swinging trap struck him lightly on the shoulder. Reinar stopped and studied the pattern of the blades, moving only when the path was safe. Brack smashed one of the blades, thinking his strength could clear the way, but this caused a stone to fall, blocking his path. Zira leapt gracefully, avoiding all the blades, her speed unmatched. Joran approached the blades differently. He observed how they moved and waited for the exact moment to step. He used small movements to distract the swinging mechanism, causing it to slow down. Step by step, he crossed the dangerous section safely. Princess Nira smiled slightly. She could see that while Joran lacked physical power, his cleverness kept him safe. After the swinging blades, a puzzle blocked the path. The puzzle required arranging colored stones in a specific pattern to open a door. Kyle tried to force the door open, hitting the stones with his sword. Brack tried the same, using his enormous hands to move the stones, but the door stayed closed. Zira attempted to guess the pattern, but her speed did not help her solve the puzzle. Reinar quickly examined the stones and began arranging them based on logic and patterns he recognized. Joran studied the puzzle differently. He noticed small scratches on the stones, marks that suggested the correct order. He used his fingers to carefully place each stone in its proper place. With a soft click, the door opened. Reinar looked surprised, and Kale frowned. Brack grumbled, realizing he could not rely on strength alone. Zira watched with curiosity, impressed by Joran's careful observation. The labyrinth continued with many obstacles. Some required climbing, some required teamwork, and some required bravery. There was a section where a narrow bridge crossed over a deep pit. Kale ran across quickly but slipped slightly, almost falling. Brack crossed carefully but shook the bridge, making it unstable. Zira jumped lightly, balancing perfectly. Reinar calculated each step, moving with precision. Joran approached the bridge slowly. He noticed the ropes were worn in one section and decided to step lightly there. He balanced carefully, using his small size to his advantage. When a rope threatened to snap, he used a hidden lever to secure it before moving further. He crossed the bridge safely, while others learned to adjust their approach from watching him. As the champions reached the center of the labyrinth, they found a group of small creatures trapped behind a locked gate. Many people in the crowd gasped. The creatures were frightened, and the champions were expected to save them. Kale immediately tried to break the gate with his sword. Brack used his hands, but the metal was too strong. Zira searched for another path, but the creatures were trapped in a small area. Reinar studied the lock, trying to find a logical way to open it. Joran walked calmly to the gate. He noticed a tiny mechanism at the side, almost invisible. With careful hands, he adjusted the mechanism, and the gate swung open gently. The creatures ran out safely. Princess Nira clapped softly, her eyes shining with admiration. She saw that Joran's careful thinking and compassion had made a difference, something the other champions had missed in their focus on strength. By the end of the day, the first trial was complete. Zira had crossed the labyrinth fastest, showing incredible speed and agility. Kyle had struggled, but completed it with power. Brack had relied on strength, but made mistakes. Reinar used intelligence to solve many sections, finishing with skill. Joran, though last to finish, had solved puzzles others failed and had saved the creatures, showing patience, cleverness, and care. Princess Nira approached Joran quietly. "You are not the strongest," she said softly, "but you are brave and you think differently. That is what matters to me." Joran smiled humbly. He did not boast, but he felt proud that Nira had noticed his effort. Queen Alara observed the scene from her throne. She knew that the trials would continue and challenges would grow harder. But she also knew that the first day had shown something important. Strength alone did not make a champion. Courage, intelligence, and kindness mattered just as much. As the sun set over the palace gardens, the crowd dispersed. The champions rested and prepared for the next trial. Joran sat quietly, sharpening his small dagger, thinking about the lessons he had learned. He knew that the challenges ahead would be even more difficult, but he also knew that he had something the others lacked: careful thinking and a compassionate heart. Princess Nira watched him from a distance, her curiosity growing. She did not know who she would choose yet, but she felt that this human might be different from all the others. She smiled to herself, wondering what the next day of trials would reveal. And so, the first day ended, with the labyrinth conquered, lessons learned, and the quiet human proving that even the smallest and weakest could show true strength in unexpected ways. The next morning, the sun rose over the palace of Viridia, casting soft light on the gardens and towers. Princess Nira woke early, filled with excitement and curiosity. Today, the trials would become more difficult. Queen Alara had announced a hidden challenge, one that would test the champions not only in skill but in character. The 5 champions gathered outside the palace gates. Kyle stretched his muscles, his confidence high after the first trial. He had finished fast, and many in the crowd whispered that he would easily win the next challenge. Reinar examined the area carefully, thinking about strategy. Brack looked calm, though his size made him feel invincible. Zira moved quickly, testing her reflexes, while Joran stood quietly, observing everything. He knew the hidden challenge would not be easy, but he trusted his mind and instincts. Queen Alara stepped forward, her voice carrying over the crowd. Today's trial is a test of courage, compassion, and wisdom. There are villagers trapped in a canyon outside the palace. You must rescue them safely. Your actions will be watched closely, for true strength is not only in power, but in care for others. The champions looked toward the canyon, a deep and dangerous gap in the land. Rocky cliffs and rushing waters made the canyon treacherous. From above, the villagers could be seen calling for help. They were frightened and small, needing guidance and protection. Kale ran first, leaping down the canyon rocks with his sword in hand. He moved fast, cutting obstacles and clearing paths. He shouted to the villagers, but many were too scared to move. He tried to force them to follow, but some panicked and ran toward dangerous edges. Kyle struggled to control the situation, realizing that speed alone was not enough. Reinar approached with careful steps. He studied the safest path and called to the villagers in calm, measured tones. Some followed him, listening to his instructions. Others hesitated, unsure if they could trust him. Reinar's method worked for a few, but the cliff edges and slippery rocks slowed progress. Brack stepped down next, his large hands grabbing villagers and moving them quickly. His strength was impressive, but he could only carry a few at a time. Some villagers screamed at the sound of his heavy steps, fearing they might be crushed. Brack realized that brute force alone could not save everyone safely. Zira moved swiftly, leaping from rock to rock. She guided villagers along, her movements graceful and quick. Her speed impressed the crowd, but some villagers struggled to keep up. Zira became frustrated, realizing that agility alone could not ensure everyone's safety. Joren approached quietly, studying the canyon and the frightened villagers. He noticed patterns in the rocks and the safest paths for people to follow. Instead of rushing, he spoke gently to the villagers, helping them calm down. "Step carefully here," he said. "Hold my hand. We will move slowly, but everyone will be safe." Joren used small tools and ropes he carried with him to secure unstable rocks and create bridges across dangerous gaps. He encouraged the villagers, telling them stories and jokes to make them laugh and feel brave. Step by step, he guided each person across the canyon safely. Unlike the other champions, he thought about every detail and every person, not just the act of moving forward. Princess. Nira watched closely. She could see Kale's frustration, Reinar's concentration, Brack's strength, and Zira's speed. But her eyes were drawn to Joren. She saw patience in him, care in his actions, and courage in facing danger without rushing. Her heart felt a strange admiration for the human, who seemed so ordinary yet so extraordinary in this moment. The other champions noticed Joren too. They were surprised at how effective he was. Kale frowned, realizing that raw strength was not enough. Brack scratched his head, puzzled at the clever ways Joren used ropes and tools. Zira, though impressed, felt a sting of jealousy. Reinar studied Joren carefully, recognizing his intelligence but wondering if luck played a part. Hours passed and the villagers were all safe. Joren stood at the edge of the canyon, exhausted but calm. He smiled at the people, who now looked at him with relief and gratitude. Princess Nira stepped forward and clapped softly. "You have saved them all," she said. "Your courage and care make you different. You are not the strongest, but your actions show true strength." Queen Alara observed from her throne, her expression proud. She had hoped the hidden challenge would reveal character, not just power, and Joren had proven it. The other champions had shown skill, but only Joren had combined thought, courage, and compassion in a way that kept everyone safe. Kale approached Joren, his pride wounded, but his respect growing. "You have done well," he admitted. "I did not think a human could handle this challenge so carefully." Joren nodded humbly. "I only did what needed to be done," he said quietly. Reinar stepped forward and studied Joren with curiosity. "Your mind works differently," he said. "You see paths and solutions that others miss. That is a rare gift." Brack gave a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of Joren's effectiveness. Zira, though faster and stronger, could not hide her admiration. She realized that winning did not always mean being first. Princess Nira felt a warmth in her heart as she looked at Joren. She could see the value in someone who thought before acting, who cared for others even in danger, and who remained calm under pressure. She felt a connection she could not explain, a sense that he understood life in a way that others did not. The crowd began to cheer, not just for the champions, but for the human who had shown that courage and kindness could make a difference. Joren did not smile proudly or boast. He simply looked at Princess Nira, and she saw honesty in his eyes, a rare and valuable quality. Queen Alara stepped forward. "The hidden challenge is complete," she announced. "All 5 champions have shown skill and strength, but only one has demonstrated true courage, compassion, and wisdom. Remember this lesson, Princess Nira. The choice you make is about more than power. It is about the heart, the mind, and the character of the one you will choose as a father and protector." Princess Nira bowed slightly, her mind racing. She looked at each champion, considering their actions. Kyle had shown strength and bravery, but his impatience had caused problems. Reinar had shown intelligence, but his carefulness had not guided everyone to safety. Brack had used strength alone, which had limits. Zira had shown speed and skill, but she had overlooked the people she was guiding. Joran had combined thought, care, and courage in a way none of the others had. As the sun began to set, the champions returned to the palace. They were tired but proud of their efforts. Joran walked quietly behind the others, unnoticed by most. Yet his mind was active, thinking about the next challenge. He knew it would be harder, but he also knew that his strength came from thinking, caring, and acting wisely. Princess Nira remained in the palace garden, her eyes on Joran. She realized that the hidden challenge had revealed something important. The human she had watched carefully was not weak. He was different. And perhaps that difference was the greatest strength of all. Queen Alara smiled quietly from her throne. The first trials had shown skill, but the hidden challenge had revealed character. The next trials would test even more, but she knew that the human had proven himself in a way that could not be measured by speed, strength, or weapons. And so the day ended with lessons learned, villagers safe, and the quiet human showing that courage, wisdom, and compassion could make him more powerful than any sword or muscle in the galaxy. The morning sun lit the palace gardens with warm gold. Princess Nira walked quietly along the marble paths, thinking about the events of the hidden challenge. Her mind kept returning to Joran, the human who had shown courage, wisdom, and compassion. The other champions were impressive in their own ways, but Joran's actions had touched her in a way no one else had. She decided to spend time with him. It was not yet time for the next trial, so the palace was quieter than usual. Birds sang in the trees and the fountains splashed gently in the courtyard. Nira found Joran near the training grounds, sitting on a stone bench and sharpening his small dagger. "Good morning, Joran," Nira said softly. He looked up and bowed politely. "Good morning, Princess Nira," he replied. His voice was calm and steady, yet there was a hint of warmth in it. "You handled the hidden challenge very well," she said. "I watched how you guided the villagers. I was impressed by how careful you were with each of them." Joran smiled humbly. "I only did what I thought was right. The others were brave, but I knew the villagers needed someone who would think about them, not just act fast." Nira nodded. She felt a connection forming, one that went beyond the trials and the competition. She wanted to understand more about this human who had quietly impressed everyone. "Tell me about your world," she said. "I want to know what made you think like that." Joran took a deep breath. "I come from a small planet called Earth. Humans are not the strongest, and we do not have great powers. We survive because we work together, think carefully, and help each other. Sometimes we fail, but we keep trying. That is how we grow stronger, not by force, but by learning and caring." Nira listened, fascinated. She had never heard a story like that from anyone in the galaxy. Most beings relied on strength, speed, or intelligence alone. But Joran spoke of cooperation, patience, and courage in a way that made sense to her. She realized that humans had a different kind of strength, one that was quiet, but powerful. "Your world sounds very different from Viridia," she said. "Do you think humans could survive here?" Joran smiled. "It would be difficult, but we would find a way. Humans are adaptable. We face challenges we cannot control, and we learn to survive and protect each other. I think that is why I acted the way I did in the canyon." Nira looked at him closely. "And what about yourself, Joran? Did you ever doubt that you could succeed here?" He shook his head slightly. "I did not have time to doubt. I only thought about what needed to be done. Fear is natural, but action is stronger. I focused on protecting the villagers and solving problems carefully. That is all I could do." The princess felt admiration grow inside her. She realized that courage was not always about fighting or winning. Sometimes it was about facing challenges, calmly and wisely. Joran had shown her a new kind of strength, one she could not ignore. Over the next few hours, Nira and Joran walked through the gardens, talking quietly. She asked about his childhood, his family, and the lessons he had learned. He spoke of teamwork, honesty, and the importance of thinking ahead. She shared stories of her life in the palace, the responsibilities she carried, and the challenges she observed among the nobles and champions. As they spoke, the bond between them grew stronger. Nira saw kindness in Joran's eyes, and he saw intelligence and curiosity in hers. The world outside the palace seemed to disappear for a while. They were simply two people, learning from each other and respecting what they saw. Meanwhile, the other champions trained nearby, preparing for the next trial. Kale practiced sword strikes, moving quickly and forcefully. Brake lifted heavy stones to build strength. Zira sprinted along the palace walls, testing her speed. Reinar examined strategies for the upcoming challenges, thinking about how to win. Each of them focused on showing skill, yet none noticed the quiet human gaining insight through observation and thought. Later in the afternoon, Nira took Joran to the palace library. She wanted him to see the books, maps, and records of Viridia's history. They walked among the tall shelves, and Joran's eyes widened at the knowledge contained in the tomes. "People here are strong and wise," he said softly. "But strength is not always enough, is it?" Nira shook her head. "No. Sometimes it is the heart and mind that matter more. Today you showed me that. You think, you care, and you act. That is a kind of power I have not seen before." Joran smiled, a little embarrassed. "Thank you, Princess. That means a lot coming from you. I only hope I can continue to do what is right." They studied maps of the galaxy together. Nira asked questions about the different planets and peoples, and Joran shared what he had learned from his travels. He spoke of the humans' persistence and the lessons they learned from failure. Nira realized that humans were not weak. They had strength that came from understanding and learning. As the evening approached, Nira led Joran to a quiet balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The sky turned shades of pink and orange, and the wind carried the sweet scent of flowers. "You are different from the others," Nira said quietly. "They are strong, fast, and clever, but you have something more. I do not know if I can explain it, but I feel that your heart matters in ways theirs do not." Joran looked at her, his eyes honest. "I do not feel special, Princess. I am just human. But I try to do what is right, even when it is difficult. That is all anyone can do." Nira smiled. She understood then that sometimes the quiet and careful could accomplish more than the loud and powerful. She realized that the choice of a father was not about victory in trials, but about values, heart, and mind. The palace grew quiet as night fell. Torches lit the paths, casting shadows across the gardens. Nira returned to her chambers, thinking about the next trials. She knew they would test strength, courage, and intelligence even more. But she also knew that Joran had shown her a new way to see the world. Joran returned to his quarters, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. He knew the other champions would continue to show power and skill, but he also knew that his greatest strength came from thinking, helping others, and acting with care. He had already proven that size and force were not the only ways to succeed. Princess Nira lay in her bed that night, remembering every moment with Joran. She realized that the bond they had formed in one day was special. She felt a strange confidence that he might be the right choice, even if others did not see it yet. And so, the day ended with quiet reflection and growing understanding. Princess Nira had learned that true strength came in many forms, and Joran, the human, had shown her a kind of courage and wisdom that no one else had. The next trials would be harder, but she felt ready to watch carefully and see who truly deserved her choice. The sun rose over Viridia, painting the palace towers with golden light. Birds sang in the gardens, and the air smelled of flowers and earth. Today, the champions faced the final trial, one that would test everything they had learned: strength, intelligence, courage, and character. Princess Neera watched from the balcony as the champions gathered at the edge of the royal arena. Queen Alara stood at the center, her voice calm and strong. "The ultimate trial begins," she announced. "A legendary beast has awakened in the land surrounding the palace. It threatens the people of Viridia. The champions must act to protect the kingdom. The way they respond will show who is truly worthy." The crowd gasped at the announcement. The legendary beast was said to be massive, with sharp claws, thick scales, and a roar that could be heard for miles. Many of the spectators feared for the champions. The five of them exchanged glances. Kale flexed his muscles and smiled confidently. Brack cracked his knuckles, ready to fight. Zira's eyes glimmered with excitement. Renar analyzed the terrain, and Joran quietly studied the situation, thinking carefully. The beast appeared in the distance, moving toward the palace. Dust rose from its heavy steps, and its roar shook the ground. Villagers ran for safety, but the path was treacherous. Kyle charged first, sword raised high. He ran directly toward the beast, striking at its legs. The creature roared louder and swiped with its claws, sending Kale stumbling back. He fought bravely, but realized that brute force alone might not be enough. Brack followed, his enormous size making him seem unstoppable. He tried to lift large stones and throw them at the beast. The creature dodged skillfully, crushing some stones with its claws. Brack's strength impressed some spectators, but the villagers were still in danger. Zira darted around the battlefield with incredible speed. She avoided the beast's attacks and tried to distract it, but her movements were quick and small. The beast's attention shifted, but it was not enough to protect the villagers completely. She realized that agility alone could not solve this challenge. Reinar studied the beast carefully. He looked for patterns in its movements, noting its weaknesses. He called to the others to help guide the villagers to safety. While his strategy worked partially, he could not control the chaos entirely. The villagers were still at risk, and the beast continued to advance. Joren stood quietly at the edge, observing the beast and the terrain. He noticed that the beast's claws were too strong to fight directly. Its size made it nearly impossible to block or push away. He thought carefully about the paths the villagers could take and how the beast moved. Then he began setting traps using ropes, stones, and parts of the environment. "Follow me," he shouted to the villagers, guiding them toward safer ground. He used small bridges, tied ropes across gaps, and moved fallen trees to block dangerous paths. Step by step, he led them away from the beast, keeping them calm and safe. Kale saw what Joran was doing and shouted, "Stop wasting time! We must attack it!" Kale rushed forward again, but Joran held up his hand. "The villagers are our priority! Don't act without thinking!" Brack growled, but followed Joran's lead. Zira and Reinar also began assisting the villagers under Joran's guidance. Together they moved people to safety. The beast, frustrated by the humans' clever use of the terrain, roared and tried to reach them, but Joran's traps slowed it down. The princess watched closely, her heart racing. She saw Kale's bravery, Brack's strength, Zira's speed, and Reinar's strategy, but it was Joran's careful thinking, quick decisions, and concern for others that truly made the difference. Without him, the villagers could have been in great danger. Finally, Joran noticed a narrow canyon ahead. He realized it could serve as a trap for the beast. Using ropes and a heavy rock, he set a mechanism that would block the beast's path if it pursued the villagers. "Now!" he shouted, signaling the others. The villagers moved quickly to safety, and the trap was triggered. The rock fell, creating a barrier. And the beast roared in frustration. Kale, Brack, Zira, and Reinar looked at Joran with surprise. They had been ready to fight the beast with force, but it was Joran's plan that had stopped it without unnecessary danger. Even the queen nodded in approval. The villagers cheered, grateful for their safe escape. Joran stood quietly, catching his breath. He did not boast or smile too proudly. He had only done what he thought was right. Princess Nira's eyes shone with admiration. She felt a deep respect for the human who had guided the villagers and outsmarted the legendary beast without relying on raw strength. Kale approached Joran, his voice low but sincere. "I underestimated you," he said. "Your mind and courage made the difference today. I see now that strength alone is not enough." Brack gave a nod of respect. "You are clever and careful. I did not expect a human to handle this so well." Zira smiled, though a little reluctantly. "You were faster in thinking than I was in moving," she admitted. Reinar studied Joran silently, realizing that intelligence and careful planning were more important than he had thought. He finally said, "You have proven yourself in a way none of us could today." Princess Nira stepped forward, her eyes locked on Joran. "Today you showed me something very important," she said softly. "You acted wisely, bravely, and with care for others. That is the kind of strength I respect the most." Queen Alara watched her daughter with pride. The final trial had revealed the true nature of the champions. Some had shown bravery, strength, or skill, but only one had combined all the qualities that mattered: wisdom, courage, and compassion. As the sun set over the palace, the champions returned, tired but enlightened. Joran walked quietly, not seeking praise, but he felt a sense of fulfillment. He had faced the greatest challenge yet and had succeeded by using what made him human: thought, care, and courage. Princess Nira could not stop thinking about Joran. She realized that the trials were not about who was fastest or strongest, but about who had the heart to act wisely in difficult situations. She felt a sense of certainty growing inside her, though she did not yet speak it aloud. That evening the palace was quiet, but the news of the ultimate trial spread quickly. The villagers celebrated Joran's cleverness and the safe outcome. Even the other champions began to reflect on their actions, realizing that victory was not only about power but about understanding and helping others. Queen Alara returned to her chambers with a satisfied expression. She knew the next step would soon come, the moment when Princess Nira would make her choice. And she knew that Joran, the human who many had considered weak, had shown qualities that might define the future of Viridia. As night fell, Joran sat quietly in his quarters, thinking about the events of the day. He did not seek glory or recognition. He only hoped to continue doing what was right, knowing that true strength came from the combination of mind, heart, and courage. Princess Nira lay in her chamber, recalling each moment of the trial. She realized that bravery, wisdom, and care for others were far more important than physical power alone. And deep inside, she felt that her choice might not be the obvious one, but it could be the right one. The day ended with quiet reflection, lessons learned, and a human proving that courage and intelligence, combined with compassion, could outshine even the greatest strength in the galaxy. The morning air in the palace of Viridia was cool and filled with anticipation. Today, Princess Nira would make her choice. The trials were over, and the 5 champions had shown their skills, courage, and wisdom. The sun rose slowly, casting soft light on the grand halls as if the world itself waited for this moment. Princess Nira walked to the central hall, where the 5 champions were already gathered. Kale stood tall and proud, still confident after his displays of strength. Brack was calm, flexing his enormous arms as if nothing could trouble him. Zira moved lightly, her agility evident in every step. Reinar's eyes were thoughtful, measuring everything around him. And Joran, the quiet human, stood patiently, observing the others, his small frame unassuming, but steady. Queen Alara entered the hall, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. She raised her hand, and the room grew silent. "Princess Nira," she said, her voice clear and strong, "the trials are complete. You have watched each champion face challenges of strength, intelligence, and courage. Now you must choose the one who will become your father and protector. Remember, this choice is not only about ability, but about heart and character." Nira took a deep breath and looked at the champions. Each had proven themselves in different ways. Kale had shown bravery and physical power. Brack had displayed unmatched strength. Zira had been swift and precise. Reinar had demonstrated intelligence and strategy. But it was Joran who had combined thought, courage, and care in ways that had saved lives and guided others safely. She remembered the labyrinth, where he had observed carefully, solved puzzles, and saved creatures that others overlooked. She recalled the hidden challenge, where he had guided the villagers through the canyon with patience and compassion. And finally, she thought of the ultimate trial, where he had stopped the legendary beast without relying on strength alone, protecting the kingdom with clever traps and careful planning. The other champions watched her closely, waiting for her decision. Some were confident, some anxious, but all wondered who the princess would choose. Nira stepped forward and addressed them. "Kyle, you are brave and strong. Your courage in the labyrinth and the ultimate trial was impressive. But strength alone is not enough to guide others or to protect a kingdom in every situation." Kale nodded, accepting her words with a mixture of pride and disappointment. She turned to Brack. "Brack, your power is unmatched. You have shown that nothing can stop you in battle. But true protection requires more than force. Strength without thought can lead to mistakes that endanger others." Brack's expression softened. He realized that size and might were not the only measures of greatness. Zira stepped forward as Nira spoke. "Zira, your speed and agility are remarkable. You move with skill that few can match. But sometimes acting quickly without considering others can create danger rather than safety." Zira lowered her eyes, understanding that talent alone did not always save the day. Reinar's turn came next. "Reinar, your intelligence and strategy have been admirable. You solved puzzles and planned carefully in every trial. But leadership is not only about intellect. It is also about compassion and courage when facing the unknown." Reinar nodded quietly, recognizing that thinking alone could not replace action, guided by care. Finally, Nira turned to Joran. Her eyes met his, steady and honest. "Joran," she said softly, "you are not the strongest, the fastest, or the largest. You are smaller than the others and carry only simple tools. But in every trial you have shown courage, wisdom, and care. You have thought carefully, acted wisely, and protected others when it mattered most. You have proven that strength comes in many forms, and that the heart and mind are as important as physical power." The hall grew quiet. Even the other champions listened carefully, recognizing the truth in her words. Joran felt a small rush of emotion. He had never sought recognition or glory, but he realized that the princess had seen the value of his actions. Nira continued, her voice steady but filled with warmth. "I choose you, Joran, to be my father and protector, not because of your size, speed, or weapons, but because of your courage, intelligence, and heart. You have shown me what true strength really is." The hall erupted in whispers. Many nobles and spectators were surprised. Some could not believe the quiet human had been chosen over the mighty champions. Kale, Brack, Zira, and Reinar all looked at Joran, a mixture of respect and astonishment in their eyes. Joran stepped forward, bowing respectfully to Princess Nira. "Princess Nira," he said quietly, "I am honored. I will do my best to protect you and your people. I will act with care, courage, and thought as you have seen. Queen Alara smiled proudly. You have chosen wisely, Nera. True strength is not measured only by muscle or skill, but by the heart, mind, and courage to do what is right. Joran has shown all these qualities. This choice will guide Viridia into a future of wisdom, bravery, and compassion. The other champions approached Joran. Kale extended a hand, his pride softened by respect. I misjudged you, human. Today I see that true power comes in different forms. Joran shook his hand, smiling humbly. Brack nodded, saying, You are clever and careful. I respect your strength of mind and heart. Zira gave a small smile. You have shown me that speed and skill are not everything. Thinking and caring can make the difference. Reinar spoke last. You have proven that intelligence combined with courage and compassion is greater than intellect alone. I acknowledge your strength, Joran. The palace erupted in quiet applause. Villagers, nobles, and spectators celebrated the choice. Many had doubted that a human could succeed, but Joran had shown that courage, care, and clever thinking mattered more than size, strength, or speed. Princess Nera smiled at Joran. You have taught me a lesson, she said softly. True strength is not always visible, and the quiet can sometimes be the bravest of all. Joran nodded. I only hope to continue proving myself worthy of your trust, Princess. Queen Alara approached and placed a hand on Nera's shoulder. The choice is made, and it is wise. Today, Viridia witnesses the power of heart, mind, and courage. Let this be a lesson for all who follow. Strength is many things, and the smallest can often be the greatest. The sun set over the palace of Viridia, casting golden and orange light over the gardens and towers. Joran stood quietly, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also a sense of purpose. He had been chosen not for his size or power, but for his heart, mind, and courage. He would protect the princess and the kingdom with all he had. Princess Nera watched him, her eyes filled with trust and admiration. She felt certain that this human, the one many had called weak, would be the protector and father she had always hoped for. And in that moment she realized that true greatness often comes in quiet forms, revealed only through courage, thought, and care for others. The hall of Viridia was filled with hope, respect, and a new understanding of strength. The human, Joran, who had been underestimated by many, had proven that true power comes from the heart and mind. The kingdom had witnessed a lesson that would last for generations. And so the choice was made, setting the stage for a future where courage, wisdom, and compassion would guide the people of Viridia into an era of peace and understanding. The morning after the final choice, the palace of Viridia buzzed with excitement and curiosity. Word of Princess Nera's decision had spread across the kingdom. Everyone wanted to see the human, Joran, who had been chosen to be the princess's father and protector. Many had doubted him before, calling him weak and ordinary, but now they were eager to witness his actions and character firsthand. Joran walked through the palace halls quietly, but with a calm confidence. He had faced impossible trials, saved villagers, and outsmarted a legendary beast. Yet now his role carried even greater responsibility. He would not only guide and protect Princess Nera, but also serve as an example to the people of Viridia, showing that true strength came from courage, wisdom, and compassion. Princess Nera met him in the central courtyard. Her eyes shone with admiration and trust. Joran, she said softly, the kingdom looks to us now. I know you will help guide and protect Viridia, just as you have done in the trials. Joran bowed slightly. I will do my best, Princess. I will act with thought, care, and courage, as I always have. I hope to serve the kingdom well. The first challenge after the choice came sooner than expected. A neighboring valley had suffered a terrible storm, leaving many homes damaged and villagers stranded. News reached the palace quickly, and the people looked to Princess Nera and Joran for guidance. Joran studied the maps and plans carefully. He did not rush. Instead, he thought through every step. "We need to organize rescue teams," he told Nera. "We should send some to bring food, some to clear paths, and others to help rebuild homes. If we act carefully and together, everyone will be safe." The princess nodded. "I will help organize the teams. Your guidance is clear and wise." Together, Joran and Nera led groups of volunteers from the palace and the surrounding areas. They moved through the valley, checking every path and ensuring no one was left behind. Joran helped lift debris, tied ropes for safe passage across damaged bridges, and encouraged the villagers, keeping their spirits high. Kyle, Brack, Zira, and Reinar joined the efforts, each contributing their unique strengths. Kyle carried supplies, across rough terrain with speed and strength. Brake lifted fallen trees and heavy stones to clear paths. Zira guided people across narrow ridges with agility and precision. Reinar advised on the safest strategies, using his intelligence to plan and coordinate. Even though they were all capable, it was Joran's careful thinking and leadership that kept the rescue efforts organized and efficient. He reminded everyone to act thoughtfully and to protect the villagers first, showing that courage without planning could lead to mistakes. Princess Nera watched closely. She realized that each champion had value, but the humans' combination of intelligence, courage, and compassion had made the difference in every trial. The villagers looked at him with gratitude, and the princess felt proud of her choice. By the afternoon, the storm's damage had been addressed. Families were safe, homes were repaired as much as possible, and the valley's paths were cleared. Joran stood quietly, surveying the results. He did not seek praise, but the villagers, and the palace guards recognized his leadership and wisdom. Queen Alara approached him. "Joran," she said warmly, "you have shown that true leadership is not about power alone. You have guided with care, courage, and intelligence. The people of Viridia are lucky to have you." Joran bowed. "Thank you, Queen Alara. I will continue to serve the kingdom to the best of my ability." The other champions gathered around. Kale spoke first. "I see now that true strength is more than muscle. It is about protecting others and thinking carefully. I respect you, Joran." Brack nodded. "I will follow your example. Strength and care together can accomplish much." Zira smiled. "You have shown me patience and wisdom. I will remember this." Reinar added, "Your courage and careful planning have taught us all something important. I am grateful for your example." Princess Nera stepped forward and took Joran's hand gently. "You are not just my protector," she said softly. "You are my guide and my teacher. You have shown me what true strength really is." The palace and the kingdom soon celebrated a new era. Word of the human who had been called weak, yet had proven his courage, wisdom, and heart spread across Viridia. People began to understand that strength could take many forms, and that even the smallest and quietest among them could accomplish great things. Joran continued to work with Princess Nera, teaching others how to combine thought, courage, and care in their actions. He trained young knights not just in combat, but in strategy, problem-solving, and compassion. He guided villagers to organize their communities and work together in difficult times. Slowly, the kingdom began to change, becoming stronger not just in weapons or speed, but in unity, wisdom, and courage. Kale, Brack, Zira, and Reinar also grew from the experience. They learned to respect intelligence and compassion, understanding that their abilities were powerful tools but not enough alone. Together they formed a council to help Joran and Nera guide Viridia, combining strength, speed, intelligence, and wisdom for the good of the kingdom. Princess Nera often walked with Joran in the gardens, talking about the kingdom, the people, and the future. She learned from him as much as he learned from her. They shared laughter, stories, and quiet moments of reflection. She realized that choosing him had not only ensured protection for the kingdom, but had also brought a trusted friend and guide into her life. Years passed, and the story of the human chosen by the princess became legend. Joran's wisdom and courage were remembered by all. Children learned from his example that even those who seemed small or ordinary could achieve greatness if they acted with heart, thought, and courage. Viridia flourished under the guidance of Princess Nera and Joran. Villages grew, peace was maintained, and people worked together to solve problems and protect one another. The kingdom became stronger not just in strength, but in knowledge, care, and unity. One evening, as the sun set over the palace gardens, Princess Nera looked at Joran. "You have taught me so much," she said softly, "and the kingdom has learned from you as well." "You are more than I could have imagined, Joran. You are the true strength of Viridia." Joran smiled gently. "I only acted as I thought was right, Princess. The people of Viridia have shown courage and wisdom as well. Together we make the kingdom strong." They watched the sun sink below the horizon, feeling the peace and hope that now filled the land. The human who had been underestimated, the one called weak, had shown the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and compassion were the greatest strengths of all. And so a new era began in Viridia. A time of courage, wisdom, and unity, guided by Princess Nera and Joran, the human who became a protector, guide, and father. The kingdom thrived, the people celebrated, and the legend of the quiet human who overcame all odds spread across the stars, inspiring generations to come.